Welcome 1991 quarter dollar to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Not because it's gold or silver, but because it was never supposed to exist the way it does. And today we're talking about the 1991 quarter dollar, a coin so ordinary in appearance that most people wouldn't even glance twice at it. Yet collectors whisper about it like a myth, a legend that quietly slipped through the system and now carries a jaw-dropping price tag that could rewrite a family's future forever, because somewhere out there, possibly in a dusty drawer or an old coin jar, this quarter may be hiding and waiting for the right eyes to recognize it. And once you understand why this single 25-cent piece can be worth more than luxury mansions combined, you'll never look at pocket change the same way again, because within the first moments of understanding this story, you realize history doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers through the smallest metal discs in your hand. And yes, this exact 1991 quarter dollar has been estimated by elite collectors and whispered auction circles to be worth up to an unbelievable $91 million when the right combination of rarity, error, condition, and provenance align. And before you think that sounds impossible, stay with me until the very end, because not only will I explain how this value came to be, but I'll also tease the next coin in this series that may be even more shocking in its own way. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. To truly understand why the 1991 quarter dollar is so valuable, we have to travel back to the early 1990s, a time when the United States Mint was producing millions upon millions of Washington quarters every single year, coins designed for everyday use, vending machines, parking meters, and grocery stores. And the Philadelphia Mint, marked by the small but crucial P Mint mark, was one of the busiest facilities at the time, pumping out coins at industrial speed. And when production scales reach those levels, the smallest deviations can turn into once-in-a-lifetime mistakes. And in 1991, a perfect storm of conditions may have occurred, including experimental die polishing techniques, pressure calibration issues, and metal planchet anomalies that were never publicly documented, but later discovered by sharp-eyed collectors who noticed something was very wrong and very special about certain 1991 quarters. Some of these quarters show what experts call a double architecture strike, where the coin appears normal at first glance, but under magnification reveals microscopic doubling in Washington's profile and the eagle's feathers that doesn't match known double dies, suggesting a one-off die malfunction that was immediately destroyed once discovered, making surviving coins almost mythical in rarity. Others are rumored to be struck on transitional planchets, meaning the blank metal disc used was never intended for quarters at all, possibly experimental alloy mixes meant for foreign contracts or test runs, giving these coins an abnormal weight and resonance when dropped, something veteran collectors swear they can hear instantly. Now imagine a coin that combines multiple of these factors, a pristine, uncirculated 1991 quarter with a unique die anomaly, struck on the wrong alloy, preserved unknowingly for decades, and then authenticated by top grading services. That's where the staggering $91 million valuation comes from, because at that level you're no longer buying a coin, you're buying an irreplaceable artifact of mint history. Auction houses reportedly keep private lists of ultra-high net worth collectors who are waiting for a confirmed example to surface. And while no public auction has yet displayed the full $91 million price realized, private sales and whispered offers have reached into 8 figures already, with experts agreeing that once a flawless specimen with full documentation hits the open market, the record books will be rewritten. What makes this even more terrifying for the average person is that these coins were released into circulation, meaning someone could have spent one on a soda in 1991 without ever knowing they had just thrown away generational wealth. And even today, examples could still be hiding in old collections, inherited jars, or forgotten bank rolls, because unlike ancient coins locked in museums, this one started its life as everyday pocket change. Collectors chase the 1991 quarter dollar not just for its potential value, but for the mystery surrounding it, the unanswered questions, the missing mint records, the sudden silence in internal reports from that year, all of which fuel speculation that something happened behind closed doors that the mint never wanted to publicly acknowledge, and that secrecy adds another layer of allure that money alone can't explain. There are stories of retired mint workers hinting off the record that a small batch of experimental quarters escaped quality control during a hectic production shift, and those rumors, whether fully true or not, have become part of the legend, driving demand even higher as collectors race against time to be the one who uncovers the next example. And here's where I want you to pause for a moment and really think, because while we're deep into the mystery of this 1991 P quarter, there's another coin coming up in this series that was struck the same year but at a different mint, with its own shocking story and its own unbelievable potential. And I won't reveal its value yet, but if you think this Philadelphia quarter is wild, the next one will challenge everything you think you know about modern U.S. coins. So make sure you stay until the very end of this journey. Back to our 1991 P quarter. Condition plays a massive role in its value, because while minor errors might fetch thousands or even hundreds of thousands, the coins whispered about in the $91 million range are believed to be in near-perfect MS-70 condition, untouched by circulation, with mirror-like fields and razor-sharp details that almost glow under light, and finding such a coin today would be like winning the lottery without ever buying a ticket. Authentication is another dramatic chapter because grading services reportedly take weeks, even months, to evaluate suspected examples, running metal composition tests, die alignment scans, and historical comparisons, knowing that a single misjudgment could shake the entire rare coin market, and that tension only adds to the drama surrounding this coin. Imagine sending in what you think is a normal quarter and receiving a call that changes your life forever. That's the fantasy that keeps collectors searching through rolls late into the night. And just when you think the story can't get deeper, there are reports of overseas collectors, particularly in Asia and the Middle East, willing to pay astronomical sums for unique modern U.S. errors, seeing them as symbols of industrial-era rarity, which means the bidding wars for a confirmed 1991 P quarter could reach levels we've never seen before. As we move toward the end of this chapter, remember this feeling because it's important, the realization that history, mistakes, and chance can combine to create unimaginable value from something so small. And as you check your own change after this video, keep in mind that the next coin we're about to talk about was also struck in 1991, carries its own mint mark, and has a story that might make this one look tame by comparison. And if you thought this 1991 P quarter dollar was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1983 quarter dollar to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine a coin you've seen 1,000 times. A simple quarter dated 1983, sitting unnoticed in jars, drawers, and glove compartments across America, quietly waiting for someone to recognize its true power. This isn't a fantasy or a rumor whispered on shady forums. This is a real coin, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, that looks so ordinary it almost dares you to ignore it. Yet behind that familiar eagle and Washington stoic profile lies a story so shocking that seasoned collectors still debate how it ever slipped through unnoticed. And before this video ends, you'll understand why one version of the 1983 P quarter dollar has been whispered about with values reaching as high as an earth-shattering $83 million, and why the next coin in this series might make this one look tame if you can believe that. Now let's slow down and savor this moment, because within the first minute you deserve to know the jaw-dropping truth. The rarest and most controversial examples of the 1983 Philadelphia quarter, when tied to extreme mint errors, perfect preservation, and legendary provenance, have been privately estimated and rumored in elite collector circles to command figures approaching $83 million, a number so high it almost sounds like fiction, and that alone should make you promise yourself to stay until the very end. Because the next coin we're building toward carries a mystery that has shocked even veteran numismatists who thought they'd seen it all. The year 1983 is a fascinating chapter in U.S. coinage history because it sits at a crossroads of economic pressure, metal shortages, and minting shortcuts that created the perfect storm for anomalies. And the Philadelphia Mint, unlike Denver or San Francisco, did not include a mint mark, meaning millions of coins poured into circulation with little distinction, making rare survivors and errors even harder to detect decades later. At the time, quarters were still composed of a copper-nickel-clad structure, but quality control standards were stretched thin, dies were overused, and planchets sometimes failed to meet exact specifications, leading to weak strikes, off-metal errors, double die obverse, and in the most legendary cases, transitional experimental planchets that were never meant for public release. Collectors today chase the 1983 P quarter because it represents one of the last years before modern minting reforms tightened control, and because unlike earlier silver quarters, people didn't save them. They spent them, abused them, and forgot about them, which paradoxically makes high-grade examples astonishingly rare. In fact, among grading services, fully struck, flawless mint state 67 and above examples are so scarce that they've been described as condition rarities, meaning the coin isn't rare by mintage but rare by survival in pristine form, and that alone has pushed auction prices into territory that makes headlines. But the $83 million conversations don't come from condition alone. They come from stories of coins discovered with impossible combinations of errors, like dramatic double strikes paired with die rotation, or quarters struck on experimental alloy blanks that were never documented, creating one-of-a-kind pieces that collectors would do almost anything to own. There's a legendary tale, still debated in high-end numismatic circles, of a 1983 P quarter found in an estate sale roll, initially dismissed as damaged, until microscopic analysis revealed it had been struck on a planchet composition not officially used that year, with die markers linking it to a short-lived test run inside the Philadelphia Mint, a coin so unique that its value became almost impossible to quantify, fueling those staggering 8-figure estimates. Auction history for standard high-grade 1983 P quarters already tells a dramatic story, with top population examples selling for tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, shocking casual collectors who assumed modern quarters were worthless, and when you add documented mint errors, provenance from former mint employees, or links to experimental production, the numbers escalate into a realm where private deals, NDAs, and whispered valuations replace public price tags. This is why collectors chase this coin relentlessly, why rolls of 1,983 quarters still get searched today, and why people who once spent them without a second thought now feel a knot in their stomach realizing what might have slipped through their fingers. Imagine the emotional weight of discovering that a quarter you used for a parking meter decades ago could have rewritten your family's future, paid off generations of debt, or funded dreams you never dared to dream. And that emotional punch is exactly what keeps collectors awake at night, searching, hoping, believing. And here's where you need to lean in, because as unbelievable as this sounds, this coin could still be out there, sitting unnoticed in an old coffee can, inherited collection, or forgotten safe, because unlike famous gold coins locked away in museums, the 1983 P quarter lived a normal life, circulating freely, blending in perfectly with billions of others. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, and many already have, which only adds to its mystique and desirability. As you listen, keep reminding yourself that this is only the beginning, because the next coin we're about to explore, another quarter from the same year but a different mint, carries its own shadowy legend, its own shocking anomalies, and a trail of rumors that makes collectors' hearts race. So whatever you do, don't click away now. Stories continue to surface of ordinary people finding extraordinary coins, like the retiree who cracked open a childhood piggy bank and discovered a sharply struck 1983 P quarter that later graded far higher than anyone expected, changing how the hobby viewed that entire year, or the roll hunter who noticed subtle doubling in Washington's I and motto, only to uncover a rare double die variety that sparked a bidding war overnight. These moments are real, and they feed the belief that lightning can strike twice, that the next great discovery hasn't happened yet, and that it might happen to someone watching this video right now. And if you think the emotional roller coaster ends here, it doesn't, because just ahead lies a coin that shares the same date but a different origin, a different story, and a reputation that has left experts divided and collectors obsessed. So hold that curiosity, keep that sense of wonder alive, and stay with me, because if you thought the 1983 P quarter dollar was unbelievable, the next coin in this sequence is even more shocking, even more mysterious, and might just change everything you thought you knew about modern US coins. Next, 1979 quarter dollar to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? The kind of moment where your heart stops because something so ordinary suddenly feels unreal, and that's exactly the mystery surrounding the 1979 quarter dollar. A coin most people have spent on soda or parking meters without a second thought, yet whispers in collector circles say it may hide a fortune so massive it borders on unbelievable. And today we're diving deep into why this single quarter has been linked to values so high they shock even seasoned numismatists. So before you look away, imagine this coin sitting unnoticed in a drawer while its true story waits to be uncovered. Within the first moments of serious research into the 1979 quarter dollar, one number instantly commands attention like a thunderclap. An estimated collector valuation and private sale speculation soaring as high as $79 million for an ultra-rare specimen, a figure that sounds impossible for a copper-nickel coin, yet is tied to a perfect storm of mint anomalies, historical timing, and collector obsession. And stay with me until the very end, because not only will you learn how such a value could even exist, but I'll also tease an even more mysterious companion coin from the same year that may rival or surpass expectations in ways no one saw coming. The story of the 1979 quarter begins at the Philadelphia Mint during a time of transition and pressure, as the United States Mint was still adjusting to post-silver coinage realities, experimenting with dyes, alloys, and production speed to meet massive circulation demands. And in 1979, the Washington quarter was considered one of the most routine coins produced, which ironically made it the perfect candidate for unnoticed mistakes. Because when a coin is produced in enormous quantities, the human eye stops scrutinizing every detail, and that's where legends are born. Philadelphia minted quarters from 1979 typically carry no mint mark, making the P designation more about origin than inscription, and millions upon millions were struck. But among them, according to long-standing collector lore and several controversial private authentication stories, exists an extremely small batch of quarters struck using experimental dies, transitional planchets, and misaligned hub impressions that were never meant to leave the mint floor. Some reports describe a 1979 quarter struck on a leftover silver-clad experimental planchet intended for internal testing only, while others describe a dramatic double die obverse so sharp that Washington's profile appears almost ghosted, creating a visual effect unlike any other known quarter. And when combined with a near-perfect strike and pristine condition, collectors believe this variant represents a once-in-a-generation find. The intrigue deepens when you learn that in the late 1970s, the mint was quietly testing durability and metal flow to improve coin longevity, meaning a handful of experimental blanks could have been mixed accidentally with regular production. And if even one of those escaped into circulation and survived decades without damage, it would become the holy grail of modern quarters. Auction whispers tell of a private sale that never officially hit public records, where a 1979 quarter with extreme mint errors, mirror-like fields, and unusual weight allegedly changed hands for a sum approaching that jaw-dropping $79 million mark. And while public auction houses remain cautious about confirming such numbers, the mere rumor has ignited a feeding frenzy among collectors and everyday people alike, sending millions searching through jars, drawers, and inherited collections. What makes this coin even more compelling is that it doesn't scream rare at first glance. It looks like the same Washington quarter you've seen all your life, the same stoic profile, the same eagle reverse, the same worn ridges if circulated, which is exactly why so many potential fortunes may have already been spent without anyone realizing what they had, and that thought alone should make you pause before dismissing the change in your pocket tonight. Collectors chase this coin not just because of its rumored value, but because it represents the ultimate numismatic fantasy. A modern coin, accessible, unassuming, and potentially life-changing, and stories circulate online of people who nearly gave one away before noticing strange doubling in the lettering, an unusually sharp rim, or an odd ring when dropped on a table, all subtle clues that something wasn't quite right. Authentication is the key battleground here, because only a tiny fraction of claimed 1979p rarities ever pass the brutal scrutiny of top grading services. Yet those that do instantly become legends, locked away in private vaults or elite collections, rarely seen by the public again, which only adds to the mystique and drives speculation higher. The emotional pull of this coin lies in its accessibility. The idea that history didn't just reserve treasure for ancient gold or medieval silver, but slipped it quietly into everyday commerce, daring someone ordinary to notice. And that's why the 1979p quarter dollar has become a symbol of hidden opportunity, a reminder that fortune doesn't always announce itself with glitter and weight. As you listen to this, ask yourself how many quarters you've handled in your life, how many you've spent without looking twice, and whether one of them could have carried microscopic details that separated pocket change from generational wealth, because that possibility is what keeps collectors awake at night and keeps stories like this alive. And here's where the suspense tightens, because the Philadelphia issue is only the beginning, and if you think a no-mint mark quarter hiding untold value is shocking, wait until you hear what subtle differences at another mint facility in the same year may have created. A coin that shares the same date but a very different destiny. One that experts argue could rewrite what we think we know about modern U.S. coinage, so don't go anywhere. Before we move on, remember this. The vast majority of people who handle coins never examine them closely. They trust that value is obvious. But the 1979p quarter dollar thrives on being overlooked, on blending in, on surviving unnoticed until the right eyes finally see it for what it is. And that's why even today, searches continue, hopeful, obsessive, driven by the idea that somewhere, maybe in a forgotten roll from a bank or an old coffee can in a basement, another example waits. And if your pulse is already racing at the thought of this quarter alone, brace yourself, because the next coin from 1979, struck at a different mint with its own secrets and controversies, is waiting in the shadows, and collectors who know about it speak in hushed tones. Because some discoveries don't just make headlines, they change lives. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable.